Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular scheduled meeting for the month of June. It is, I would like to welcome Reverend Sauter from Wesleyan United Methodist Church.
Good evening. I'm Jane Sauter. I'm pastor, the interim pastor for 2 more days at Wesley United Methodist Church. I'm from New York, and it has been my pleasure to be a citizen of Concord for the past year. Will you join your hearts with mine? O Creator of all that is, we ask you to be present at this meeting, where people will talk about giving voice to the voiceless, finding homes for the homeless, giving hope to the hopeless. May their decisions be guided by you. May there be little rancor. May there be commitment to be one as you serve the people of this community. We ask that you bless them and bless the work that will be done. Bless those who are here to make pleas for assistance, and bless those who cannot be here but also need assistance. We ask all this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Belle, could you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, be seated. Before I recognize the clerk, I recognize Council Champlin for point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to say that as Reverend Sauter indicated, she has 2 more days with Wesley United Methodist Church, which happens to be my church as well. I just wanted to acknowledge that not only has she been a great citizen of Concord for the last 12 months, but she has been a healer and a faith leader and as Earl Pierce once said about somebody else, a tough aunt who we have come to really love, and we regret that she's going to go back to New York, but we look forward to having her drop by in Concord from time to time. She has been a wonderful asset to our church and to our community. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Councilor Bouchard.
She's excused.
Mayor Poulet.
Here.
Councilor Brown. Here. Councilor Champlin.
Here.
Councilor Fennessy.
Present.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Here.
Councilor Keach.
Here.
Councilor Kretovic.
Here.
Councilor Metzen.
Here.
Councilor McLaughlin.
Here.
Councilor McNamara.
Here.
Councilor Nyan.
Present.
Councilor Pierce.
Here.
Councilor Rice Hawkins. Here. And Councilor Todd.
Here.
Good to see you all. We have the meeting minutes for May 8th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Move approval?
Second.
Motion made, second to approve the minutes. Is there any changes, discussions? Seeing none. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. This is to our city manager contract. This contract, different than previous years. The contract for the manager was contract after much discussion amongst council and with the manager. This is and with the legal counsel, this is a 5-year contract. It basically mirrors what else is going on across the state for city managers and town managers. There is a cost of living adjustment that will have to be voted upon by the council, as well as the council must act each year to decide whether in accordance with the charter, the performance has met satisfactory or unsatisfactory. There are otherwise very few changes. This, of course, will be on the city website if approved, and that'll be much easier for other people to read as well, line by line. So with that, Mr. Manager, the good work that you have done over the past year, and I have full confidence that you will continue, and that as you have for 16 years, 17 years?
17.
We've been dating a long time. So with that, could I get a motion on the contract?
So moved.
Motion made and seconded to approve the contract. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Okay, that is the manager's contract. Takes us to our consent agenda. Consent agenda Item 11 has been removed by Councilor Brown. Can I get a motion on the remaining items on the consent?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to the consent agenda other than item 11. Seeing anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is adopted. Takes us to our public hearings this evening. Madam Clerk.
First item is a resolution appropriating the sum of $200,000 for the completion of a Bridge Park feasibility study in conjunction with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation's I-93 Bow Concord project and authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes in the amount of $200,000 for this purpose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Members of the council, just briefly explain the core elements of the proposed scope of work. So that would be to identify and evaluate suitable locations for a bridge park or other pedestrian bridge over the high-speed rail corridor and I-93, generally between exit 13 and 14, to connect downtown to the Merrimack River within the context of natural and the man-made constraints, to develop concept plans for the said structures, including profiles, cross-sectional views, together with layout plans, drawings, renderings, develop plans demonstrating how said structures would connect to Store Street, to the Merrimack River, and Loudon Road if viable, identify private property acquisitions and major infrastructure improvements that would be necessitated to make such structures feasible, and to develop preliminary costs for each concept. The project scope also includes multiple public meetings as well as meetings with the Department of Transportation and private property owners. The project scope of the work was issued to the consultants in February. Proposals were received and reviewed, and we actually have proposal ranges between $175,000 and $575,000, and we're recommending a budget of $200,000 to begin work on this project. We anticipate it taking between 12 and 14 months.
Who has questions of the manager? Councilor Chambliss.
Thank you, Your Honor. In this document and other conversations, Mr. City Manager, this project has been referred to as a bridge park. I'm used to calling it a deck park. Is there any differentiation between those?
There
Those
is
two
not.
terms? All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify on this item? Good evening, welcome.
Hello. My name's Aaron Frackenrow. I live here in Concord. I was here in front of you probably 8 months ago at a number of the meetings, and I'd just like to say thank you for finally bringing this hopefully to the next step. And thank you for your support of the deck park.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, appreciate you taking time to come out tonight. Anyone else wishing to testify? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And Madam Clerk, item 19B, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $142,000 for an existing conditions report and to create a park master plan for the Memorial Field Complex, authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes in the sum of $71,050 and accepting the sum of $70,950 as a donation from the Concord School District for this purpose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
And members of the council, as you know, the city and the Concord School District recently met, had discussions between officials and staff to review options for the Memorial Field concept and to explore opportunities to work together and needed improvements. As you can see, there's many of those folks from the school district are out here now, elected and appointed. Both sides agree the first step is to planning phase and to work together to bring the vendor to help evaluate the existing site, develop a master plan for the site, and plan for joint investments in infrastructure. As part of the facility condition and master plan phase, there'll be a review of the soil conditions, site drainage. As you know, the early 1970s underground field drainage system was installed. It's no longer working properly. Also to recommend field and site improvements, new track layout, review of the site can support an addition of an artificial turf field and other needed amenities. As well as part of this phase, we'll also have public meetings to listen to the wants and needs of the community. The cost of the master planning process is $141,900, and the resolutions they have in front of you is for the full cost of the condition and master planning phases. The Concord School District has agreed to participate financially in this cost at about 50/50 share. And if funded, this phase will begin in June of this month and anticipated to take 10 months to complete. Be glad to answer any questions.
Those questions for the manager? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Takes us into our action phase, Madam Clerk. Item 20.
First item is a resolution appropriating the sum of $200,000 for the completion of a Bridge Park feasibility study in conjunction with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation's Interstate 93 Bow Concord project.
Move approval.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve this resolution. Is there any comments? Councilor Champlin.
Just briefly, Your Honor, as somebody who has been involved with conceptualizing this idea for a long, long time, I'm very happily going to vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm sorry, Councilor Brown.
Yes, I do have some concerns with this, just because we had a lot of testimony during the I-93 widening discussion, and a lot of people came to speak about access to the river, connecting the neighborhoods, and I feel like this feasibility project, this is something that would only happen after the highway is widened, and it would be how many millions of dollars that would have to be a federal grant, or it just, I feel like we can access the river less expensively. We have the Merrimack River Greenway Trail in front of us. That's going to be paved all the way to the end of the cornfields. It would not take much more to then connect that to Terrell Park, and we have a loop. And we don't have to wait for the highway to be widened. This was based on, the deck park idea was based on the master plan from 2006, and a feasibility study was done at that time, and things happened, and now it's no longer feasible. So I'm leery of spending money towards a feasibility project that wouldn't happen for a number of years and is dependent on a great deal of funding that wouldn't come from the city, or I hope wouldn't come from the city, because it would be incredible about. I just feel like we can do this more cheaply. I don't like the idea of a park over an 8-lane highway. It's already loud. It already smells. I don't think that's attractive. I think if the highway is widened, people are going to be flying by Concord. They are not going to be stopping. I think what will stop people is if they see people walking along the side of the river, along the Greenway Trail. So I am in favor of a feasibility study, not for a deck park, but to examine how we can access the river now without depending on I-93 widening.
Thank you. Councilor Fennessy.
I'll be supporting this item. I'm not sure whether a deck park is going to make sense, but I certainly think we should spend the time and money to assess it. I know I've spoken with a number of people who were on the 2000 group that looked at the master plan, and it was really important at that time. Now, obviously, things have changed substantially since that point. It may not make sense. It may make more sense to rely upon the improvements we're expecting with the Loudon Road Bridge, but this is the time, I think, to look at it and decide whether it makes sense or not, and so I will be supporting.
Thank you. Councilor
Thanks,
Cardone.
Your Honor. I will also be supporting this. As someone that participated pretty deeply with the original concepts of the I-93 widening, we really wanted to bypass so that we would stop cutting our city in half by this highway. This feasibility study is going to tell us what's possible so that we can connect our west side of the river to the east side of the river. All the other amenities that are around the river are important to it, but ultimately, if we continue to let a highway divide our city, we continue to let this economy be divided from one side to the other. And what I hear from our community in the conversations around the I-93 widening, in the conversations around Langley Parkway, in the conversations around our community center, is we want to unify our community. And if a feasibility study says, hey, maybe not the Bridge Park, but we can do this, I'll take the but we can do this, because the study's going to tell us that. Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Champlin?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll just add to my comments and to the comments of my colleagues that when we sat and talked about the I-93 project, one of the things I heard clearly from our constituents, members of the public, was that there was a great deal of interest in having a deck park, using this opportunity to reconnect the downtown to the river from which we've been separated for 200 years since the railroads were built there. Honestly, as Councilor Fennessy says, this is really our last best hope to see whether this is feasible. This is the time, this is the moment. And if we don't do it now, if we don't at least explore this now, it'll be another woulda, coulda, shoulda in the city of Concord. And so I, again, will be strongly and happily voting in favor of this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Brown?
I would like to make an amendment. Is that how I?
So before you do, I was going to speak before you do.
Oh, okay.
I was going to speak on this motion, so does anybody else want to speak on this motion before we do? All right. So I wholeheartedly support this item. I've sat through numerous meetings where the public gave input to Transportation Policy Advisory as well as City Council, and I'm a bit confused of some of the comments in terms of access to the river. Because just 1 week ago, I sat in this chair, we all sat around this table, 1 week ago, last Monday, and we voted on our city budget. And in that city budget, it reflected the fact that the city applied for a $250,000 grant for the Merrimack River Grooming Trail. We also put in, was it 150,000 measured or 180,000? It was a substantial amount. And this, we're talking about 200,000. We put in $150,000 for the Merrimack River Grooming Trail. Why? Because we all agree that access to the river is really important for this community. We all are in favor of that. We put our money where our mouth is, and we put that forward. But this is an opportunity for us to be creative, to be big thinkers, that out-of-the-box feeling that we talk about now and then, that how are we going to get people off the highway? How are we going to get them into our great downtown? How are we going to show off our community? This is one of those magical moments that we have an opportunity to actually think differently. Like, oh my gosh, what can we possibly do? It wasn't my idea. In fact, it didn't even come from the council. This idea came from the community when they came and testified. And I thought it was a great idea. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I don't think anybody in this room knows what it's going to look like. But you know what? If we don't spend this money, if we don't take the time and look, we're never going to know. So I hope we strongly support this, strongly move forward, think about our community long term. This is exactly the type of things we need in Concord. Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Yes, I would like to make an amendment to say that, to add language that it is for a pedestrian bridge park or other river access, and take out the language about the highway. Because I think we can access the river without having to go over the highway.
Is there a second to that? Seeing that, you sure?
Can you clarify exactly where you're looking?
I'm looking at the resolution, and I feel like this is very narrow, and it's too narrow. It's focusing specifically on a bridge park over a widened highway. I would like us, if we're going to spend the money and we're going to explore options, I want to broaden that, and I want to look at how can our community access the river now? And if a bridge park doesn't work, this feasibility study would determine another option. I don't want it to be just about a bridge park.
Is there a second? Seeing no second, the motion does not go forward. We are still original in motion of ought to pass on this item. Is there any further discussion?
Just one point, Your Honor.
Councilor Keach.
With all due respect, Councilor Brown, I understand your point, but I think the purpose of this proposal is not access to the river per se, but connecting east and west, which will in part connect to the river, but it's not exclusive to the river. It's connecting the east and west, and I think that's the broader idea of the proposal. I'll be in support of it.
Okay, so with that, Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you. I think that point's well taken. Our own city staff has raised concerns about whether the Bridge Park deck is feasible, and the original parameters for the preferred plan for the state in the 2006 visioning of what this would look like has differed from what that plan's been adopted now. That said, I appreciated Councilor Champlin's question earlier about the language for how this is characterized. It doesn't have to be one particular design, but is looking at options here generally. Also, I think that the I-93 widening, that ship has sailed and it's going to happen, and we're looking at best options for our city now. So thank you. I appreciate everybody's comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion, we have a request for roll call. Madam Clerk, we start the roll call with Council Fennessy.
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Counselor Keach.
Yes.
Counselor Kretovic.
Yes.
Counselor Mattson.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor McNamara.
Yes.
Counselor Nyan.
Yes.
Counselor Pierce.
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Counselor Todd.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Counselor Brown.
No.
Counselor Champlin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Having received the most necessary two-thirds, the motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 21, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $142,000 for an existing conditions report and to create a park master plan for the Memorial Field Complex, authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes in the sum of $71,050 and accepting the sum of $70,950 as a donation from the Concord School District for this purpose.
Move approval.
Second.
Does everybody move? Okay. We do have a motion for to be approved. And there's duly seconded. Is there any discussion? Council Fennessy.
Thank you. I just want to thank the school district for working together with city staff and putting together a plan to address an issue that I don't know about anybody else, but I hear about all the time from constituents. Usually they're teammates of my kids on various teams. Sometimes it's the kids I'm coaching. I think it's, one of the real jewels that we have in the city is this space where so many sports happen. I mean, the springtime is the best. You can see tennis going on, a track meet, softball, adult softball, little league, all of these things going on all at once in one area. We need to make an investment. I think we all know this is the first step to figuring out what that investment is going to be so that we can bring this back to the level of excellence that we expect from our recreational facilities in the city.
Thank you. Council Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's been 2.5 years since my dear friend Samuel Habib came here and spoke before the council with regards to the accessibility of the bleachers at Memorial Field. And while this is only the first phase, I want to give confidence to Samuel and everybody else that has mobility challenges, that the bleachers are part of this look that we're going to do. Patience is a virtue, and my brothers and sisters, it's coming, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to thank Jack for his very short testimony. All right, it's very appreciated.
Anyone else? I'll just simply add, sometimes I hear from the community that the city and the school don't work well together, and I personally think that's wrong. I think we work incredibly well together, and I just want to publicly take the opportunity to thank President Richards for your leadership and the whole school board. The fact that, this is a great example of how when we sit down in a joint city school committee, we can take that, we can bring it back to our various boards and both administrations. I think the fact that you all work seamlessly well, it makes a huge difference for our common taxpayer, our citizens in this community. It makes a huge difference. And this field is long overdue for a lot of love, and I think that this is one of those investments that we make in the community, which we will see for generation after generation and generation, and I get to see our kids and grandkids, et cetera, play there. So thank you. I really appreciate it for the school board and what you're doing. Any
Can I
further?
make one more comment? I would highly.
I thought I had a great summary. I
I just want to recommend to everybody the report that city staff put together regarding the history of Memorial Field is amazing to learn. There's much that everybody in the community should read it and learn about it. It's great. Well, thank you very much.
Since I have to be last. Mr. Dunn, it is great to see you this evening. All right, with that, we have a motion. Are we ready for the vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Having received the necessary two-thirds, the motion is adopted. Takes us to our reports. Item 22, please.
It's a report from the Parks and Recreation Director requesting the city manager be authorized to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the city of Concord and Second Start
Mr. Manager.
regarding the citywide community center.
Madam members of the council, you see, you have a very short report, as I requested from Mr. Gill, Parks and Recreation Director. And we've been working very closely with Councilor Champlin and actually folks from Second Start to look at providing some additional services out at the Citywide Community Center. So at this, I'd like to turn it over to Councilor Champlin and for his excellent work on this, and David Gill's excellent work along with the legal department. So with that.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I really just wanted to thank you and Mr. Gill for your flexibility and for your enthusiasm in coming up with this MOU, this arrangement. I also wanted to thank Karen Jewell, who at the time was a member of the steering committee of the Good Neighbors Group at Heritage Heights, who approached me about the need for space for English language tutoring. And also acknowledge the work of Patricia Bedford from Second Start, who we pulled into the discussion and found that Second Start would be an ideal mediator and organizer and coordinator of this effort, not only with Good Neighbors, but with all of the organizations that provide adult English as a second language tutoring and other tutoring. I am very hopeful that this pilot will prove to be highly successful and will provide the basis for us to expand the availability of space at the Citywide Community Center in the future. So thank you very much.
Okay, questions for either the manager, Mr. Champlin, Council?
If I could add one item.
Sure.
So as you know, council, and most of the council is probably aware, we've had decades-long relationship with Second Start. They're actually, I won't go too far, and we're really building on that. And from working for decades with Jim Stargrass and then the people who've taken over from them who are excellent also, this is just a natural outflow of that. So I won't say anything else at this point.
Because you can almost hear what I
I
was
can
going to
almost
say.
hear it's echoing in my head. So.
Any questions? Council Brown.
Yes. I just have a question about how, what were some of the tutors, the people who would be working, what were some of their reactions in coming up with this memorandum of understanding, their input, if you want to share that?
Our primary conversation was with Karen Jewell, who at the time was representing Good Neighbors. I believe that Second Start has had convenings of all of the various organizations that provide tutoring, and I think that they've been supportive in that.
Any further questions? Councilor Sargis.
Thank you. I'll be supporting this tonight. I did note two things in the MOU that I would like to potentially see us address going forward. The first is that the space is at the sole discretion of the Parks and Rec Director, who will obviously do a great job, but it strikes me that for tutoring, there are probably set days and hours and assurances for the program that they'll have those set hours that they're scheduling week to week. I just note that the MOU is very lopsided when it comes to that agreement. And the second piece is, it specifically notes that no materials or project materials can be housed at the Citywide Community Center, and having run after-school programs and tutoring programs in the past, you do actually have a lot of equipment, and so I'm going to support this. I think this is great. Thank you to Councilor Champlin and Karen Jewell and others at Good Neighbors, but it would be great if we could improve upon that in the future.
If I could. Yep. We discussed those issues and they were fine with the way it is. Those were not, we talked about the hours, and the idea of the flexibility in the hours is in case of a room is not available and they would like to run something, that it would actually work both ways in favor of both groups. So that the time would always be there. It just would not necessarily be in the same room because of changes. And as far as materials, they had no issue with the materials. So both of those issues are taken care of.
Anyone else?
Not saying this can't change over time.
Right. Good stuff. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing no further questions, we'll open we're not having a public hearing because it's a report. My apologies. The school board's here. I'm all excited. I don't know.
You didn't even say nice words about the superintendent.
She knows I like.
Kathleen is fabulous, by the way.
Okay, so with that, can I have a motion on the report?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made second to approve this item. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. New business, I was contacted by Council Brown around new business. I don't know what it is, but I was contacted.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. In this agenda, there is an appointment, and I want to talk about appointments because we're looking at a lot happening in Parks and Recreation, but the actual Parks and Recreation Committee has 4 vacancies. And there are people who have submitted, yes, there are 4, people who have submitted letters of interest. In Ward 2 and Ward 9, 2 letters came in April. And we know that in December, we suspended the rules of receiving notification of appointments 15 days in advance so that the Golf Building Committee could be seated. These are letters of interest that came in April, and we still have not seen those seats filled. And I don't know when the Merrimack Valley School District seat or the Concord School District seat has been filled. The Ward 2 seat has been empty for almost 2 years. And in fact, at the last RPAC meeting, the person interested, Kathy Furlong, attended. We have a lot happening with Parks and Recreation, and this is the opportunity for people to reach out to their ward representatives or attend those meetings. This year, there have only been 3 RPAC meetings, January, March, and May, and there isn't one scheduled in June. However, there are 9 meetings that have happened for the golf course. Actually, the 9th one is happening this week. So I just feel as though the representation isn't there for Parks and Recreation, and I feel like we need to seat these people because there are some items in the CIP that are dependent on cooperation between committees. And if these committees don't even have a meeting set up, they're vacant, that there are seats that are vacant, they may not have a quorum. I think this is a real problem.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anybody else want to talk about appointments? See none? There's no motion, right? It was just a...
Well, actually, I don't know if I can, but I guess I can make a motion that we immediately suspend the rules and we seat Ghana Sharma Dahal, who is a citizen, for the Ward 9 position, and Kathy Furlong for the Ward 2 position. They both submitted letters of interest back in April of this year.
So a year and a half ago, you sat down with myself and others, Counselor, to talk about orientation, and we went through the process of how appointments are made and such. I have 2 names that'll be coming forth. I've worked with the ward counselors, and you'll see 2 names coming forth from the clerk's office probably by the end of the week.
Yes, absolutely.
So you have 2 names coming forth. I've worked with both the counselors, and that should be, now, in terms of school district, I think they just heard you, and I bet you that they might appoint somebody now, but I don't think there's a need to suspend any rules. I think the appointments work just fine, and there'll be a full slate. And I encourage anybody who's willing to serve or interested in serving to put their name with the clerk, and we get a chance to review those. As you know, some committees are appointed by, the boards themselves. So, for instance, the Planning Board has a subcommittee, the Conservation Commission has some subcommittees, so they make their appointments. We know that some boards, like the Heritage Commission, is appointed by and the Zoning Board is appointed by the manager, and some committees are appointed by, nominated by myself and approved by you all. So, I think the process works pretty well, and I think it'll continue to work just fine. Councilor Quiddick.
Thanks, Your Honor. I do know that when we had spoken about the Recreation Department in May and the open seats that there were there, we now have 2 people that are interested from Ward 2 to fill that seat. So for us to sit here and make a decision on somebody without seeing their letter of interest, without seeing their resume, without comparing the 2 people side by side, and I did have a conversation with Councilor Bouchard because she did mention that Ms. Furlong had been to their meeting, but it's still a process that is approved by this council. I don't want to sit here and approve people without actually having their credentials in front of us for us as a council to review. And I think that the process that we've had thus far, regardless of 15 days, 9 days, or whatever, it is a series of individuals that we as a council are trying to seat on these boards because they will be ethical, because they have integrity, because they are going to represent the citizens of our community with whom they are going to be presented to represent. And without those credentials behind it, I'm not comfortable just randomly selecting people. Thank you.
Hey, Councilor Hawkins.
Thank you. I'd like to agree with Councilor Kretovic. In fact, that was the topic of a discussion at this very body a few months back, where we approved the names that had been recommended for a committee that didn't have any resumes or backgrounds, and it was a concern raised by a couple of councilors that we were approving people without having any idea of their background, expertise, qualifications, and interest. I would recommend that it would be great if we could have, as part of our city council packet, a listing of who has applied for different committees, even though it is the decision of various positions, either the mayor, the city manager, or particular boards. It would be great for transparency to know who has applied and when the dates of those applications come in. I am hesitant to have it just come from city councilors, because I think that means that only those who are already connected or have that kind of network have the opportunity to serve on our boards and committees in our city. Thank you.
Okay. We all set with new business? Any further new business? Seeing none. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? Councilor Dodd.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to give mention to our HR, city's HR Director, Jennifer Johnston, and the partnership that the City of Concord is having with VLAX, which is the Virtual Learning Academy charter school. It's actually the only charter school, online charter school that's approved in New Hampshire. And so what they've been doing, I think, is basically teaming up with VLAX and being able to provide students in this charter school with information about opportunities to work for the city. And I think it's a great initiative. You know, we've talked many times about how the city can remain competitive in the job market, in the job field with outside businesses. And I think this is an excellent way to show that the city has lots of great job opportunities for high school graduates, and basically also be able to provide information at the same time to high school students about how the city functions and how it operates, so everything from police and fire and all sorts of other positions. So again, hats off to Jennifer Johnston and also Stephanie Breton for her assistance with that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else? Councilor Brown.
Yes, I'd just like to acknowledge that Monday is Juneteenth.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Get a card. Mr. Chamberlain.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to thank, and Councilor Todd can correct me, I think the Pennacook Village Association for a great parade in Pennacook, a great Memorial Day parade, and also the Concord Veterans Council for an equally great Memorial Day parade here in downtown Concord. They were great events. Weather was a little bit hot in Pennacook, a little bit cooler.
Usually is.
It usually is. It's a hot time in Pennacook. But they were great events, and I thought that the public turnout was outstanding.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Manager, do you have anything?
Nothing to add, Your Honor.
Great. Madam Clerk, item 11, please.
Yes, it was pulled from consent by Councilor Brown. It's a de minimis gifts and donations report from the library director requesting authorization to accept monetary gifts totaling $1,675.75.
Thank you very much. Councilor Brown,
Thank you.
Are you opposed to receiving these?
What's that?
Are you opposed to receiving these?
No. I simply, I have had a conversation with the assistant director. I approved the report. I wanted to discuss there was $270.19 for lost books and damaged books. And I was concerned because there still is not a return bin up at the Heights branch. And I feel like books could become lost or damaged if folks don't have the means to return them easily. I had a conversation with the assistant director, and I've been in communication with the library director today. They have researched bins, they have identified the bin that they want, they've worked with Parks and Rec director, it's on wheels, and it will be within the community center, so that people can return books not just 6 hours, but now 30 hours. They haven't ordered it yet, they are in the process of ordering it. So,
Okay.
yes, I learned
Thank you.
that
All right.
later.
So do we get a motion? That has nothing to do with this item, so we have a motion on this item?
Move to accept it.
Motion made, is there a second? Second. Any further comments about the report? Oh, Councilor Fezzi.
I apologize for all the books that I've lost.
Thank you for the fines and fees. but-
And I paid my fines, and I owe some more. They will be paid.
Anybody else feel like going to confession? Right. Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it. Okay, takes us to the end of our meeting. Is there anything else that everybody has before? Mr. Manager, anything?
Nothing to add?
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion made and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it. We're adjourned.
Alpha 4